The movie begins with Christopher acing his test scores, even surprising his professor. His sister, Mitchell, believes that he should not let his intelligence go to waste and urges him to go to college. Although Christopher is hesitant at first, he eventually agrees to give it a try, a decision that delights Mitchell, who even mimics the playful antics of Kid Cosmo in celebration. Some time later, the founder of Sentre Technologies, Ethan Skate, appears on an all-access show with Malign Vance. He explains that the evolution and mass production of robots began in 1955, originally to perform tasks that humans did not want to do. However, as time passed, the robots grew tired of the roles assigned to them and began demanding lives of their own. A full-scale war broke out between robots and humans, lasting 2 years. Humanity fought valiantly but ultimately lost until Ethan intervened. He created the NeuroCaster, a device that links human minds to mechanical drone bodies. With this breakthrough, humans were able to win the war within a week. A treaty was subsequently signed between Mr. Peanuts, the former planter production robot, and President Clinton, and the defeated robots were captured and imprisoned in Sense Exclusion Zone. Later, an upgrade was added to the NeuroCaster that allowed a human mind to be in 2 places at once, essentially working and playing simultaneously. After the war, in 1994, Mitchell finds herself in a foster home run by Ted. Desperate for freedom, she tries to remove her ankle monitor but fails. Ted, meanwhile, uses the NeuroCaster to let his assigned drone focus on household chores while he immerses himself in other activities. It becomes evident that Ted is more interested in the money he receives for fostering than in Mitchell's well-being. At school, while the NeuroCaster is widely used by others, Mitchell refuses to participate. When a teacher, Mr. Sablinski, wonders why she avoids the device and offers to call her mother, he is shocked to learn that Mitchell is an orphan. That night, back at home, Mitchell is haunted by an unsettling dream about the accident that took her parents' lives and separated her from Christopher. She wakes to a loud crash and, driven by curiosity, steps outside her room. However, she freezes in fear when she sees a robot. Attempting to rouse a snoring Ted, she finds him unresponsive and, with no other option, retreats back into her room. She hides under a table, hoping the robot will not notice her, but her hopes are dashed when the robot lifts the table. To her surprise, the robot, named Cosmo, does not appear hostile. Instead, it attempts to speak to her and gestures for her to plug a wire into its head to improve its speech. When she complies, Cosmo picks up a framed photo of Mitchell and Christopher, insisting that they must work together to find him. Overwhelmed by the painful memories of Christopher, Mitchell warns Cosmo to drop the frame. In the ensuing struggle, she accidentally pushes him, causing a loud crash that finally awakens Ted. Ted enters the room in a fury. If the state discovers that he is harboring a bot, he could face severe penalties. He tries to force Cosmo out, but the robot refuses to leave without Mitchell, escalating the situation into a physical fight. Grabbing his phone to call 911, Ted is unexpectedly tasered from behind by Mitchell. She and Cosmo then flee, and Cosmo quickly removes her ankle monitor. Ted recovers and uses the NeuroCaster to pursue them, but Mitchell manages to steal his car and speed away. She drives until she reaches the Fort Hull rest area, only to have the car come to a halt due to busted tires. Hoping for a solution, she checks for a spare tire, only to find it torn as well. Cosmo steps out of the car, gazing sadly at the desolate surroundings, but Mitchell gently pulls him back inside. Determined to understand the mystery, Mitchell begins questioning Cosmo, trying to grasp how Christopher could exist in Cosmo's form despite having already passed away. Cosmo admits that the real Christopher is still out there, though he is not faring well. When Mitchell asks how they can find him, Cosmo gestures toward a nearby signpost bearing the Sentre logo. However, with facilities spread across the world, pinpointing Christopher's exact location seems nearly impossible. In an attempt to offer a clue, Cosmo mimics the shape of glasses and Mitchell quickly realizes he is referring to a doctor with glasses, the same doctor who once delivered the tragic news of Christopher's loss. Mitchell pulls out a map, and Cosmo places his finger on a location called Tabletop. The problem is that Tabletop lies deep within the exclusion zone, rendering the journey nearly impossible. Still, Cosmo believes that Mitchell can make it. Searching the car's trunk, Mitchell discovers a box containing belongings from the exclusion zone with a traceable connection to New Mexico. Convinced that finding the owner of the box might reveal a way inside, they board a train and soon arrive at their destination. While waiting for food, Cosmo hides behind a dumpster. His attention is drawn to a man sprawled on the ground wearing a NeuroCaster and apparently convinced that humanity is in danger. As Cosmo moves to remove the device, Mitchell stops him, warning that tampering with it will only worsen their situation. Suddenly, the blare of a truck horn startles them, and they rush to hide. Through their hiding spot, they watch as the truck driver, Keats, a former military personnel, unlocks his safe using the same address found on the box. It seems they have found a promising lead. Meanwhile, a business deal unfolds between Keats and a mysterious man using a NeuroCaster. Keats acquires items illegally and resells them for profit. This time, the trade involves a pistol. However, when payment is due, the man suddenly turns the gun on Keats. Anticipating betrayal, Keats swiftly dodges, while his robotic sidekick, Herman, finally fires a shocker at a nearby drone. Back at the rest area, Colonel Bradbury, butcher of Skin City, also using a NeuroCaster, notes the box from which Mitchell tore the address. Unaware that Mitchell and Cosmo have already sneaked into Keats' truck, Keats and Herman drive off and eventually arrive at an abandoned warehouse where Keats stores his stolen goods. As they argue over a power circuit, their attention is diverted when one of the machines suddenly powers on. They catch up with Mitchell and Cosmo, and Keats demands answers. Mitchell confesses that she is heading into the exclusion zone and reveals her knowledge of his illegal machine trade. Keats warns her that the zone is no place for a child and orders her to return to where she came from. Just then, an elevator pings, indicating that Bradbury has traced their location. Thinking quickly, Mitchell urges Cosmo to hide with Herman while she faces Bradbury alongside Keats. They attempt to fabricate a cover story, but it fails when Bradbury calls Mitchell by her full name, lists her offenses, and orders her to surrender the robot or face arrest. It appears that Ted is behind this trouble. In a desperate bid, Keats uses a prearranged shock phrase to signal Herman to activate the shock, but Bradbury is too cunning. He uses Keats as a shield, and Keats ends up being shocked instead. Bradbury eventually discovers Cosmo and Herman and tries to shoot them, but Mitchell intervenes just in time. She cuts the lights while Keats attempts to fire at the drone. The attack proves futile as the drone retaliates by targeting Keats. Mitchell steps forward with Cosmo behind her as Bradbury orders her to step aside, declaring that Cosmo has been marked for deactivation. Before he can finish his threat, Herman unleashes a robotic clamp that traps the drone. Seizing the opportunity, they all rush to a waiting vehicle. However, Keats struggles to find the correct key, and precious seconds tick by until he finally locates it. They speed off, only for their escape to be cut short when the drone breaks free from its clamp and fires at them, causing the vehicle to break down. As Bradbury zeroes in on Cosmo, Herman jumps in to shield him, and Mitchell arrives just in time with a truck, crashing into the drone and successfully shutting it down. The impact, however, causes the cave to tremble, and Keats urges them to evacuate. They barely escape as the cave collapses behind them. Frustrated by the loss of their only exit, Keats quickly leads the group to a hidden garage where the HRM component system is stored. While Mitchell explains her dire situation, Herman secures himself, and Keats powers up the system. Despite Mitchell's mention of a doctor, Keats doubts that any medical professional would know a way out of the zone. After a heated debate, Herman hoists the truck onto his shoulders and carries Keats, Mitchell, and Cosmo to safety. During the journey, Keats inquires about Mitchell's parents, only to realize that they are gone. Curiously, Mitchell asks Keats how he and Herman became friends, and he recounts how Herman once rescued him during the war, a time when he also realized how unjust the conflict was when he tried to convince Sentre to end the fighting. Betrayed and forced into a life on the run, Keats and Herman have been fugitives ever since, struggling to survive together. Meanwhile, trouble looms for Sentre when Ethan discovers that the NeuroCaster database is malfunctioning. Scientists inform him that Christopher, the true mastermind behind the technology, is effectively absent. Although Christopher is physically present, his consciousness has drifted away from the firewall due to an unsecured node in his data matrix, a deliberate act by Dr. Armist. Ethan had exploited Christopher for his own gain, and with the database failing, his company now faces shutdown within a week, leaving him devastated. Bradbury later receives an email from Ethan instructing him to activate his NeuroCaster for a meeting. Ethan transports him to a serene, nature-filled virtual space and reveals crucial information about Mitchell and Cosmo. They strike a deal, and Ethan powers up Bradbury's drone to capture Cosmo, aiming to retrieve Christopher. Meanwhile, Keats and the others reach a location known as Tabletop but soon encounter trouble when a group of bots ambushes them, leading to their arrest. They are taken to Blue Sky Acres, a settlement where bots live freely under the guidance of Mr. Peanuts, who shares the settlement's history at a local diner. As Keats eagerly orders food, Mitchell explains Christopher's situation to Mr. Peanuts. He eventually admits that Dr. Armist, an expert in human-machine interactions, had been there, though he sent him away and now has no idea where he is. Fearing that Mitchell and her crew might endanger the settlement, Mr. Peanuts initially refuses to let them stay. Frustrated, Mitchell prepares to leave with Cosmo while Keats and Herman follow. Over a quick meal, Keats warns that traveling the exclusion zone at night is perilous. After some hesitation, Mitchell agrees to delay her departure. She grows emotional as she reminisces about Christopher, and Cosmo comforts her by playfully imitating Kid Cosmo, a display that draws the attention of other bots, including Mr. Peanuts. Later that night, Penny, a quiet bot, approaches Mitchell and hands her a letter from Armist, written just before his departure. The letter contains a location, but when Mitchell asks for further directions, Penny refuses to divulge more, fearing for her safety. Moved by Kid Cosmo's innocent charm, Mr. Peanuts offers to help them reach their destination. He introduces them to Pop, an old bot renowned for evading scavengers, though Pop's tendency to power down frequently may prove problematic. Unbeknownst to them, Bradbury's drone has spotted their group. When they finally reach the designated location, they are immediately ambushed by scavenger bots. Just before the attack escalates, Armist opens a hidden passage and pulls them into a basement. Inside the basement, Mitchell wastes no time questioning Armist about Christopher. He reveals that Sentre discovered Christopher's unique abilities and took him from a hospital coma to create the new NeuroCaster. Although Christopher regained consciousness months later, Armist had tried to persuade Ethan to disconnect him instead. Ethan had even threatened Armist's life with a guilty conscience. Before fleeing Sentre, Armist secretly created a small connection between Christopher and the outside world. Determined, Mitchell demands that Armist help them rescue Christopher. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted when Bradbury's drone slides down. Mr. Peanuts distracts Bradbury while the others attempt to escape, but before they can get far, more Sentre drones ambush them. Keats urgently orders Mitchell to hide with Cosmo as chaos erupts. From his vantage point at Sentre, Ethan orders his team to capture Cosmo at any cost. A fierce battle ensues. Bradbury and Mr. Peanuts engage in combat, culminating in the removal of Mr. Peanuts' metal hat, which causes him to lose power. Shortly afterward, Bradbury finds Armist, Mitchell, and Cosmo. Armist urges Mitchell to run while he confronts Bradbury, but Ethan deploys a drone that takes Armist down and orders Barry to locate Cosmo. With Armist's final breath, Mitchell and Cosmo find themselves surrounded. The drone successfully captures Cosmo. As one drone attempts to seize Mitchell, Bradbury intervenes and orders her to retreat. Back at Blue Sky Acres, the settlement lies in ruins. Most of the robots have been deactivated, no doubt the work of Ethan and his drones. Cosmo is taken back to Sentre and strapped down for reconnect ion to his body. However, Bradbury soon realizes that Ethan has been lying. Ethan dismisses Bradbury's concerns, insisting that he is working solely toward peace and evolution, a justification typical of a deranged scientist excusing human experiments. In the midst of the turmoil, Mitchell tearfully confides in Keats that Christopher was all she ever had. Keats reassures her that she now has a larger family and promises to help find Christopher. Seeking further answers, Mitchell asks Armist, the PC robot, for details on Sentre's access points. PC reveals that disconnecting Christopher would collapse Sentre entirely, as its network relies on his brain. Seeing an opportunity to shut Sentre down for good, Mitchell is determined, but Mr. Peanuts hesitates, longing for peace. After delivering an inspiring speech about bots and humans uniting against their common enemy, Mr. Peanuts finally agrees to join them. It appears that their journey will lead them all to Seattle. Upon arrival in Seattle, Herman's HRM launches a full-scale attack on Sentre, prompting Ethan to order all drones to take it down. The battle quickly turns brutal as the remaining army of bots joins the fray. Meanwhile, Mitchell and PC sneak into the building. Displeased with the chaos, Ethan heads off to end the conflict once and for all. At the same time, Mitchell and PC locate the room where Christopher is locked up. PC successfully scares away the scientists, locking them inside with him. Mitchell gazes at her brother with deep sorrow and asks if there is any way to communicate with him. PC explains that she can only connect with him through his mind. Meanwhile, Ethan activates his NeuroCaster, unveiling a massive drone with even greater power. The drone joins the battle, systematically taking down bots, a spectacle that horrifies Penny. Concurrently, Bradbury confronts Mr. Peanuts in a tense standoff, arguing that resistance is futile since Ethan will ultimately prevail. Yet Mr. Peanuts remains undeterred, insisting that they must survive if they ever hope to gain their freedom. In a moment of resolve, Bradbury reveals Ethan's location to Mr. Peanuts before powering down. In a final twist, Mitchell dons the NeuroCaster, which transports her to her family home where she finally finds Christopher. Relieved, she tells him they must leave, but Christopher refuses. Having witnessed the grim state of the outside world, he believes that everything is his fault and that the only way to fix things is to sacrifice himself, as his connection to Sentre is symbiotic. Outside, the battle intensifies. Just as Ethan is about to finish off Keats, he is alerted to a breach in Christopher's room. Before Ethan can act, Mr. Peanuts intervenes. On the battlefield, Herman makes a final, selfless sacrifice to save Keats before deactivating, leaving Keats devastated by the loss of his loyal sidekick. As PC urges Mitchell to hurry amidst the worsening fight, Mitchell tearfully confesses to Christopher that she cannot bring herself to pull the plug on him, she has only just regained him and fears losing him again. Yet Christopher insists, reminding her that the time he spent with her was the best part of his life. After 3 long years in Sentre, Mitchell cries out in anguish, but Christopher assures her that she will not truly lose him. Still, he warns that their friends may not be as fortunate, as time is running out. In a heart-wrenching moment, he pulls her into a warm embrace, and together they express their love. With no other choice, Mitchell, overcome with sorrow, pulls the plug on Christopher, allowing him to rest in peace. Instantly, all the drones at Sentre begin to break down, and the bots erupt in celebration, while Ethan is left devastated. Keats feels a mix of relief and profound loss as he mourns Herman. To his astonishment, a smaller model of Herman emerges, bringing unexpected joy. Herman immediately teases him for his emotions, and soon they resume their usual playful banter. Meanwhile, news of Sentre's shutdown spreads across the world. Ethan is eventually arrested after footage of his experiment with Christopher is exposed. With the unwavering support of Keats and Herman, Mitchell delivers an uplifting live broadcast that reaches audiences worldwide. She urges people to put aside the NeuroCaster, and her heartfelt words resonate deeply, visibly moving viewers. In a final twist of fate, Keats embraces Mitchell warmly, and, miraculously, Christopher eventually reconnects his mind with Cosmo, revealing that Mitchell still has her brother after all.